The evening that changed how audiences view political interviews unfolded on a buzzing live set in Los Angeles. Here's what happened when a talk show host underestimated Melania Trump, leading to a moment that shocked the world. The studio was alive with the palpable energy of a prime-time talk show, its set brightly illuminated under the gleaming lights, hinting at the blend of humor and incisive political commentary that viewers had come to expect. At home, audiences were settling in, looking forward to the usual engaging mix from the well-known liberal host, Alex Brooks. Known for his relentless interviewing style, Alex sat in his chair, the confidence oozing from his every pore, his polished grin reflecting the studio lights perfectly. Tonight was supposed to be just another regular show, but fate had other plans. Alex began with a tone tinged with mischief, announcing, "Tonight, we're joined by a very special guest, a surprise to us all. Someone whose presence on this stage might be the last thing you'd expect." The audience's curiosity rippled like waves through the studio as whispers filled the air. Then, in a moment as if choreographed for maximum dramatic impact, Melania Trump made her entrance. Clad in a sleek ivory suit, her posture radiating elegance and a quiet strength, she walked onto the stage. The audience gasped and then fell into a mix of hesitant claps and puzzled glances, caught off guard by her unannounced appearance. Even Alex, seasoned as he was, seemed momentarily disconcerted, though he quickly masked it with his customary smirk. As Melania approached, her confident stride unbroken, she greeted, "Thank you for having me," her accent soft but clear, setting a tone of composed assurance that permeated the studio. The interview kicked off predictably, with Alex displaying his usual charm. He leaned back, crossing his legs, and asked casually, "Melania, it's been quite a journey for you since leaving the White House. What's life like now?" Melania met his gaze directly, her voice steady. "Life is peaceful. I focus on my family, my projects, and helping children through my initiatives." Alex nodded, but the twinkle of mischief returned to his eyes. This wasn't just a friendly chat, the audience could sense it. He dove deeper, interesting, but let's be honest. Many people have criticized you for remaining silent on several controversial topics during your tenure as First Lady. How do you respond to that? The studio tensed, breaths held in anticipation of her response. Melania, however, remained undisturbed, her hands resting gently on her lap. "I believe actions speak louder than words. It's easy to talk, but harder to make a real difference." As the interview progressed, Alex's questions grew more probing, touching on subjects no one anticipated Melania would address. Each query seemed designed to corner her, to provoke a defensive reaction. But Melania's responses were measured and articulate, reflecting a deep understanding of the issues at hand. The atmosphere in the studio shifted palpably as the discussion turned personal. Alex's smirk widened as he delved into topics traditionally considered off-limits, tapping his pen against the armrest for emphasis. "Actions speak louder than words. Interesting philosophy, Melania. But don't you think some moments demand words, especially when the stakes are high?" His tone had shifted. It carried a subtle edge, as though testing the waters before diving deeper. Melania tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "I believe people have their roles. My role was to support my husband and our country in my own way." Alex raised an eyebrow, the challenge clear, and supporting him meant staying silent, even when his actions or words created division. The question hung in the air, incendiary and bold. A few gasps from the audience punctuated the tense silence that followed. Alex leaned back, arms folded, clearly expecting a defensive response, but Melania didn't flinch. Instead, she allowed the silence to linger, her gaze unwavering. "Division has always existed. Blaming one person for it is easy, but it doesn't solve the problem. I choose to focus on unity, not blame." The audience murmured in response, some nodding in agreement, others still skeptical. Alex, momentarily taken aback by her poised retort, quickly regrouped. "Fair point, but speaking of unity, there are rumors, controversies, things people want to hear from you directly. For example, your marriage." The room erupted with a collective gasp, the air heavy as the line of questioning veered into deeply personal territory. Melania's expression remained unchanged, but a flicker in her eyes suggested she was prepared for this moment. Alex leaned in, his voice lowering just enough to make the moment feel intimate yet charged. "Let's address the elephant in the room, Melanian. Many have questioned your choices, your silence during some of the most tumultuous times in recent history, and even your relationship with the former president. Are you here to set the record straight?" The audience sat on the edge of their seats, whispering among themselves. This was the moment they had been waiting for, a confrontation that promised fireworks. Alex's smirk grew, sensing he was about to corner his guest. Melanian, however, remained composed, straightening her posture, her face calm but commanding. "I am here to speak for myself," she stated firmly, her accent carrying a subtle sharpness. "Not for rumors, not for stories made by people who do not know me." Alex opened his mouth to interrupt, but Melanian wasn't finished. Her voice gained momentum, cutting through the air like a razor. "Everyone has opinions," she continued, her words deliberate, "but opinions are not facts. I know who I am, and I know what I stand for. The rest is just noise." The crowd fell silent, absorbing the weight of her words. Even Alex, the seasoned host known for his quick wit, seemed momentarily at a loss for how to respond. His smirk faltered, replaced by something resembling genuine surprise. Melania's gaze swept the audience. "It is easy to judge someone from the outside," she added, her voice steady. "Harder to look inside yourself and ask why you feel the need to judge." The room erupted into applause, some rising to their feet in support. Alex, still recovering, attempted to regain control. "Well, that's you. Quite a perspective, but surely you understand why people feel ... double quotes. Melanian cut him off with a small, polite smile. "I understand more than you think," she said, the applause growing louder. But Alex wasn't done yet. His next move raised the stakes even higher. Leaning forward, his pen now resting forgotten in his hand, his voice took on a sharper tone, one that seemed to dare Melanian to falter. "You know, Melanian, there's something people have always been curious about. How do you reconcile your platform of unity and kindness with some of the more, let's say, controversial statements your husband made? Statements that many say divided the nation." The room fell into an uneasy quiet, all eyes darting between Alex and Melanian. It was the kind of question designed to corner someone, to put them on the defensive. The audience braced themselves, expecting either a deflection or an outburst. But Melanian, ever composed, didn't miss a beat. She placed her hands gently on her lap, her expression calm yet firm. "People see what they want to see," she began, her voice resolute. "My work has always been focused on helping children, promoting kindness, and showing respect. I cannot control what others say or do, but I can control how I act, and I choose kindness." Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed by what he perceived as a vague response, but he pressed. "But surely there were moments when you could have spoken out, taken a stand." Melania's eyes narrowed just slightly, her voice cutting through his interruption. "Taking a stand is not always about shouting the loudest," she said. "Sometimes it is about staying true to your values, even when it is not popular." The audience broke into applause, some even cheering. Alex, momentarily stunned, seemed unsure how to proceed, but his hesitation was brief. He leaned back, offering a small laugh as though to regain his footing. "Fair enough," he said, "but let's not ignore the fact that silence can also be seen as complicity." The room erupted, the energy now electrified as the audience reacted with a mix of shock and admiration. Alex's face shifted, his confidence visibly wavering. This wasn't going as he had planned. But the moment that truly silenced the room was still to come. Alex adjusted his tie, clearly searching for a way to regain control of the conversation. The tension in the room was thick, every word feeling like it carried the weight of the world. Finally, he leaned forward and delivered the question that no one thought he would dare to ask. "Melanian," he began, his tone deliberately measured, "do you ever regret marrying Donald Trump?" A collective gasp echoed through the audience. Even the crew behind the cameras seemed stunned, their movements momentarily pausing. The question was not just bold, it was deeply personal. All eyes turned to Melania, waiting for her reaction. For a moment, she didn't respond. She sat still, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched, just long enough to make everyone uncomfortable, including Alex. Then she spoke, her voice calm but piercing. "Regret is for those who do not take responsibility for their choices," she said. "I know who I married. I know the life I chose, and I stand by it. Not because it is easy, but because it is mine." The audience erupted into applause, louder and more unified than before. Some people stood, clapping with admiration. Alex blinked, his composure cracking for the first time that evening. He opened his mouth to speak, but Melania wasn't done. "We live in a world where it is easy to criticize from the sidelines," she continued, her tone unwavering. "But the truth is, you cannot understand someone's life unless you have lived it, and I do not owe anyone an explanation for my choices." The applause grew deafening, the crowd clearly siding with her. Alex leaned back in his chair, visibly humbled, his earlier bravado nowhere to be seen. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling was even more surprising. As the cameras cut to commercial, the studio audience buzzed with chatter, a mix of awe and disbelief. Melania had not only held her own against Alex's relentless questioning, she had turned the tables entirely. The show's producers scrambled behind the scenes, some furiously typing notes, others muttering into headsets about the segment's viral potential. Meanwhile, on stage, Alex leaned over to Melania, his earlier confidence replaced by something more subdued. "I'll admit," he said with a half-smile, "I didn't expect you to handle that so gracefully." Backstage, staff members and guests whispered as Melania passed by, her presence commanding attention. Some were eager to compliment her composure, others were simply stunned by her ability to dominate the conversation without raising her voice. She thanked them graciously but didn't linger. As she exited the building, a crowd of reporters and photographers had already gathered outside. Questions flew from all directions. "Melania, do you think Alex went too far? Were you prepared for this interview? Do you have anything else to say?" She paused briefly, turning to face the flashing cameras. "I said what needed to be said," she stated simply, nothing more. Then, without another word, she stepped into her car, leaving the crowd buzzing in her wake. But by the next morning, her words had sparked a nationwide debate that no one could ignore. By dawn, clips of the interview had spread like wildfire across social media. Cable news networks replayed the moment on a loop, with pundits arguing over whether Alex had crossed a line or if Melania's responses were a masterclass in grace under pressure. The debates weren't confined to television. Coffee shop conversations, workplace discussions, and family dinner tables buzzed with questions about the boundaries of professionalism and personal respect in interviews. Amid the frenzy, Melania issued no further statements. She let her words from the interview speak for themselves, a decision that only fueled the public's fascination. Her silence was not evasive, but deliberate, a reminder that sometimes restraint can make the loudest impact. In the weeks that followed, Alex Brooks addressed the interview on his show, acknowledging that he may have underestimated his guest. "I'll say this," he told his audience, "whether you agree with her or not, Melania Trump knows how to command a room." For many, the takeaway from the event was not just about Melania or Alex, but about the broader lesson of handling adversity with dignity. In an age of heated debates and viral sound bites, her composure became a rare example of rising above chaos. As the headlines faded, one thing remained clear. Moments like this remind us of the power of measured words, the strength of self-awareness, and the importance of standing firm in one's truth. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind.